I'm not here to out the movie theater that made this happen, but Regal Cinemas, Kingston, Massachusetts, what are you guys doing? Get your shit together. So
welcome in, everybody, to another horror movie review. Today we are covering the movie Longlegs, and as a special treat at the end of the episode, Jesse, Dave, and myself will all be measuring our legs to see who actually does have the longest legs amongst the three hosts of Hometown Ghost Stories. But I am your host, Rob Coakley, joined as always by Dave Wilkins.
It's not me. I'm not the one with the long legs.
medium legs is what they used to call me in high school.
That's true. And before we even jump into this movie review, I just want to state, before we get into anything, including the synopsis, this movie is brand new. The best way to see this movie is to go into it as blind as possible. Go to the movie theater, see it, then listen to this review. From here on out, we are going to be spoiling this movie. So you have been warned. I don't want to hear it. When you're like, oh, I watched a movie review about a movie, and then they told me everything that happened. We told you we're going to spoil it. That rant is over. Dave, can you hit us with a synopsis for the movie Longlegs?
Longlegs, 2024, directed by Oz Perkins. FBI agent Lee Harker is assigned to an unsolved serial killer case that takes an unexpected turn, revealing evidence of the occult. Harker discovers a personal connection to the killer and must stop him before he strikes again. So this was fun. We actually went to go see this in the movie theaters. We haven't gone to the movie theaters in kind of a while to see one of these horror movies before reviewing them. And man, was this just an okay experience, which has nothing to do with the movie. There are all sorts of technical difficulties with this. All three of us made an effort to not see any spoilers, not watch any trailers, not see any media on any social media, see nothing. I had no idea what this movie was going to be about. I was successful not having it spoiled or anything like that. And what do? We go in and it's just black screen and we're sitting there waiting for this movie to start. All of a sudden it jumps like somewhere in the movie and just starts playing a random scene. We're like, oh, sick. And it happened twice before the movie actually started. So thanks.
It just kept cutting out. And I mean, it was a hot day. I don't know if that had something to do with it. I mean, it's an air-conditioned building, so I don't really see why it wouldn't.
Was it?
It was.
Was it an air-conditioned building?
Listen,
it's hell in there.
I'm not here to out the movie theater that made this happen, but Regal Cinemas, Kingston, Massachusetts, what are you guys doing? Get your shit together. So, and I think there were some malfunctions going on around because as we were waiting, I'm like, all right, well, I might as well go to the bathroom. So I walk out and I hear two employees talking and they're like, oh, like hopefully the movie starts playing so we don't have to issue everybody in this movie a refund as well. So it sounds like it was an issue that was going on throughout the movies. But yeah, we sat there, no previews, no nothing, no previews to other movies, which is nice because we got no other horror movies spoiled for us. But the theater is absolutely packed and everyone's just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, eating their popcorn, just like, I hope this movie starts at some point. I walked out and checked the movie time like 16 times just to make sure that we weren't in the wrong theater. We were not. It just didn't play. And then, again, we didn't want it to be spoiled, but it just starts playing random snippets from the movie because they were just trying to get it going. We're like, well, that part of the movie we know now. And
you guys missed the part that put our spidey senses off to begin with. We walked in 1 minute before the movie was supposed to start playing, and the end credits were going for the previous viewing of whatever movie was going on. And they were just like, oh, so something's not going. Yeah. It's not adding up.
We're going to be here forever. That's what I thought. Yeah. But the movie finally did start where it was supposed to start, and the opening scene of this movie was pretty jarring. Now, going into this movie blind, which was my goal, was also, I think, a hurdle because I spent a lot of the movie trying to just really figure out what was going on. And I think that was kind of the intention of it, trying to figure out, is it supernatural? Is there an actual serial killer? What the heck is going on here? And eventually you do figure out what's going on. Now, this movie is getting a lot of praise online. And I think I don't know if it's really a criticism per se, but one note that people have about this movie is that it's quote unquote a slow burn. And I very much disagree. This was not a slow burn movie at all. I thought it felt almost rushed. going like during the build up. It kind of felt like we were dropped into this story right in the middle, right? Because they're like, killings have been happening, and they start referencing killings that they've been investigating, and I'm like, wait, well, I don't know, we don't know about this. So I'm trying to play catch up, and it just feels really fast paced, actually, as we're trying to follow this, what I think is kind of a convoluted plot until they kind of tie it up at the
Yeah,
end.
it definitely was the opposite of a slow burn, I'd say. You had enough things going on here. I think this movie should have been a series instead, because you had so much to work with. And I think overall, when I got to the end of the movie, I was like, they tried to do maybe too many things, and almost to a point where Nicolas Cage in this movie, we didn't know that going into it. That was awesome. His character almost seemed to be not as important to the story, which I guess was a little bit of a twist. But at the same time, it was like you could have gone more into him. And he was kind of, I kept thinking of him as like a Buffalo Bill type character, where I was getting real Silence of the Lambs vibes with this whole movie. And yeah, I think this storyline was fun. It was entertaining. It was really creepy, really well acted by almost everybody in the movie. Actually, pretty much everybody in the movie. I don't think there was a bad actor in it. And overall, it just, yeah, you're right, David. It felt rushed, and I feel like this could have been, either a short 6-episode series, or they could have milked 10, 12 episodes out of it if you start adding some more deaths and some more families involved with this. But it felt rushed. It didn't really fully make sense to me towards the end of it, but we'll get into the ending as we go.
Yeah, I use the word rushed. I don't know if rushed rushed seems a little harsh. It just felt a little bit faster paced. Well, I felt like I was trying to play catch up, and they kept referencing other cases that they had been investigating that we didn't know about. So a little convoluted, but the movie came together right around in the middle, and it really worked. This was a good movie for sure. This was extremely well acted all the way around. I thought Nicolas Cage's character was disturbing, and Nicolas Cage is just Nicolas Cage. I feel like he delivered on this role, and he was extremely creepy.
It was another one of those movies with Nicolas Cage where if they didn't stamp his name on it, you might not have known that it was him.
Yeah,
towards the end, they had so much makeup and prosthetics on that you had no idea who this was, and he wasn't doing Nicolas Cage voice. He was just crazy person the whole time. So I thought it was very. Go ahead.
Sorry, I want to touch on this point that Dave's making, where we're just kind of dropped in, and I kind of like that, because we see Micah Monroe's character go through this first case, and like you said, Dave, it's absolutely jarring the way this movie starts off with that particular thing. And because of this particular case and some things that happen, she gets put on this other one with Longlegs, and she kind of gets dropped into it. So I feel like we're getting dropped into it with her, right? We're not seeing it from the beginning, because she's not seeing it from the beginning. She gets dropped in as like an add-on, through the case. So we're sort of catching up while she catches up. So I was kind of okay with
Are you referencing the very opening scene?
Well, I was referencing the opening case that she's on.
Okay, gotcha. Because the opening,
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Opening scene was different. That was with Nicolas Cage's character there. But
Right.
yeah, the first case, I would caught what you're throwing
Gotcha.
down there. Well, what you got from that is you sense that she has some sort of like almost psychic abilities,
Mhm.
which is good, because like I said, this movie had a lot of, I couldn't stop comparing it to Silence of the Lambs while I was watching it. But the difference with her character and Clarice's character in Silence of the Lambs is Clarice was brought on to go talk to Hannibal Lecter in those movies because she was just good at her job, right? She was just a good detective. She was thorough. So they brought her in, and she started talking to Hannibal Lecter and trying to put the pieces to the case together there.
Well, I'm sorry to throw you off on this. She was a recruit, and I believe that he had requested her, if I remember correctly. It's been a while, but
Right.
she was brand new.
Clarice?
Yeah.
Maybe the books are a little bit different. I just finished reading the book. But
Okay.
either way, with this movie, she has some sort of like psychic ability, right? It's not just a good police hunch. She just looks at a house and she's like, he's in that one. And she just knows.
Mhm.
So in this reference, in other cases as well, she's got this weird thing going on, maybe a little psychic ability or whatever. So the difference with this is she gets put on this next case, the Longlegs case, because they're like, all right, she knows some shit that she shouldn't know. Let's put her on this next case and she would see what she can figure out. So still a little bit similar, but at the same time, it's for a different reason in this movie.
Well, I think you're nailing it with the Silence of the Lambs reference. I think this movie really is a throwback to a lot of 90s like FBI movies. Seven's one of them. Some Murder by Numbers stuff, like not in the sense that it's supernatural, but just in the feel of the movie and the setting as well. I mean, this movie is set in the 90s. It is shot on film from the 90s as well, so it really gives you that sense of the 90s like all around it. So I was
The picture
as
of
I
Bill
was watching
Clinton, the picture of Bill Clinton hanging on the office wall, just like dead center. Like that was a focal point. They wanted you to know this was probably around 1992.
right. I mean, it's in the FBI office, which is where they are going to show chain of command stuff. So, but they made sure you saw that. They
Yeah.
were like, "Hey guys, it's 1990. Here's our president, Bill Clinton, for sure."
Also,
Which-
shameless plug before we go too far. Beginning of the movie, they kept going back to this house that she lived in when she was a child. It looks so much like the Hinsdale house.
Yeah.
I'm sitting, I'm like, did they shoot this at the Hinsdale house? A little bit different, a little bit bigger, but every time they showed it, I'm like, this looks like the damn Hinsdale house. If you haven't watched our episode on the Hinsdale house, 2 of them, go watch it.
Yeah, it did look a lot like the Hinsdale house.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you really got this 1990s FBI procedural crime drama mystery going on throughout this movie. Micah Monroe, I thought, was great in this movie. I didn't even realize it was her. And for those of you who don't know, she was the main character in It Follows, amongst many other horror movies. But she once again nailed this role. I thought she was great in this. I thought everyone was pretty great in this. I thought everyone pretty much nailed their roles. And they did something that I'm going to talk about in the end that I usually would catch, but for some reason I didn't catch in this movie. So when we talk about the ending, I'll talk about that. Before we talk about the ending, we got to talk about all of this movie. But something I want to talk about is the camera shots in this movie. They were doing a lot of these wide angle shots throughout the movie. And there's a few that I can think of specifically where I thought we were supposed to be focusing on the background to prepare ourselves for a jump scare or something. And it leaves you really unsettled, right? Because you're like, what's going to come up over here? What's going to be over here? And it never happens. And you were just so unsettled by the shots that they chose that it was awesome. Because there's one where she's sitting at a table and you keep seeing the doorway to the kitchen over her shoulder. And I'm like, oh, someone's going to walk by her or something. And that is not where it happens at all. But they show you this scene, like this specific shot, like 3 times at least. And you're like, and I'm just sitting there like, oh, when's it going to happen? When's he going to walk by her? It never does in that instance. So I love the choice of camera shots in this movie.
Yeah, this movie does a couple different things where they are trying to build up tension and they do it without visual effects. Not that there's an absence of visual effects, but they're doing it in other ways. The camera angles is one. I mean, technically that is visual, but it's not like they're not like putting something on screen that makes you uncomfortable. They're giving you an angle that makes you uncomfortable. Another one was the sound design of this movie, in particular on scenes where Longlegs is talking. And when he talks, he increases in intensity as he's talking. And if you notice subtly, as his intensity is increasing, the intensity of the music is increasing also, which gives like a whole other layer of just stress and discomfort in a good way for the viewer.
Yeah.
No, it was good. I thought she did a great job in this movie. And it's different than the other movies that she's been in the way that her character was. And we're talking about Monroe here. She had this kind of introverted personality to her that I haven't seen her do in other movies. And she stuck with it the whole movie. She never really broke out of that. It was a very like socially awkward kind of thing that she had going there. And it just fed more into her weird childhood. And then you later find out her very weird mother. You now understand why she doesn't go and visit her. I thought her mother was going to be dead. I think me and Dave were talking about this when we were leaving, that the phone calls that she was having with her mother, we didn't really know if there was actually anybody on the other line or if this is her tapping into something going on psychologically. It was very eerie. And then the second that you meet her mother, you're like, oh, she's behind something. Something's not right here. Yeah.
Yeah. She, they don't really hide that too well once she shows up on screen, which I don't knock the movie for. I think it was fine, to be honest.
Yeah. No, she was great too, Alicia Witt, which I haven't seen her in anything since like Urban Legend, but I thought she was great in this, so it was cool to see her again. I know she's done things since, but I haven't seen any of them. So, but yeah, just another testament to how great all the acting was across the board in this.
Oh yeah, Blair Underwood as well. Like he was the other police officer, like her partner in crime there. He was phenomenal the entire movie. I thought, again, we're spoiling. I thought the scene where he became possessed, it was weird because he's saying stuff that's kind of funny, but you don't want to laugh.
Yeah.
Like he's taking his, like, he's about to murder his wife. And this is where I was kind of pissed off because I'm like, he's about to go kill her, but she only wanted to save the little girl. I'm like, shoot him now because he's about to go stab his wife to death.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why she waited to shoot him.
Because it was her partner.
Right. But he's possessed. He's literally going into the kitchen. He straight up told you. His wife goes, we'll be right back. And he goes, no, I'll be right back. She'll be in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because he's going to bring her into the kitchen to murder her. At that point, you got to shoot that guy. He's about to commit a murder.
True.
And I don't know why she didn't. I don't know why she didn't.
This scene was well designed because it showed, and Mike and Monroe did a great job portraying, I think, what they were going for in this scene, which was she was at a serious point, a breaking point, where she had just kind of cracked the case. She kind of figured out what was going on, but she was this is her partner, right? This is her friend, and this is the family that she had just met. And it really showed her struggle with how to handle this situation. And obviously her main concern was the girl, because the girl at this point was in the same situation that she was in when she was a little kid. And she knew that she had to break the girl from the curse. So I think that was her main priority. And it's just, you're in a situation like that and you got to make a snap decision. And sometimes you don't make the right decision. Sometimes the right decision eludes you. And a second later, it's too late and you got to kind of change gears. So I thought that scene was really tense in that way.
So do you think, because I have a lot of questions about this ending, do you think that because she was in that same situation as a little girl, the detective, obviously I'm talking about here,
mm-hmm.
that she had broken out of the curse? Do you think that's the reason that she had these kind of special abilities?
Yeah. So what I think about this, and I've had some time, I'm glad we didn't review the movie right away, because I think I would have given it a worse score than I'm going to, because now that I've had time to think about it and really kind of mull it over in my head, I think I understand the plot. And I like where I initially didn't like the way it ended. I think looking back at it, I do like the ending. So you had Mike and Monroe's character, who we find out that the opening scene was actually her as a little girl, and Longlegs, he makes the puppets. He's a puppet maker, very creepy. And he puts this little like ball inside the puppets' heads. And that's the possession right there. So he takes, basically, for lack of a better way to explain it, he basically takes the little girl's soul, I guess, and puts it in the ball and puts the ball in the puppet's head. And then that girl is then possessed. Now, the mother, Alicia Witt's character, intervenes at that point and says, no, basically makes a deal with the devil, saying, I will be your soldier. Just don't take my daughter. So he keeps the little doll of Mike and Monroe's character. And that's why she has the connection to all the cases. Now, when she shoots the doll in the head and explodes that little ball, you see the spirit almost go out, which I think which released her from the curse. So she knew that that's what she had to do with her partner's daughter there. And what I loved about the ending of this movie, if you guys want to get into it, is she never releases the girl from the curse. Remember, she went to go shoot the doll and just click, nothing. And they kind of pan away from that. And then, the movie kind of ends and you're like, oh, that was kind of a shitty ending. But it was like, no, that was a great ending, because it left an opening. It left sort of an ambiguity in that ending, so that the story isn't quite over. And it really kind of sits with you. It makes you think about what could possibly happen.
Yeah, I did like the ending in the first place. I also want to do a call, like what I was talking about earlier, that I want to talk about with the last scene.
Mhm.
Is I usually catch the foreshadowing, like when they talk about something that seems like a throwaway line, and I'm like, oh, that's going to come back in whenever. I don't know how I missed this until after I saw it. It's She goes to meet her partner's family, which includes the partner's child and everything like that. And at the end of the conversation she has with the child, she's like, "Will you come to my birthday party?" The little girl says to Micah Monroe, and she's like, "I'll definitely be there." And the possession takes place at the birthday
Right.
party for the little girl.
I'm glad you brought that up because her reaction initially when she agreed to come to the birthday party, it felt like an awkward introverted reaction because when the
Yeah.
girl's like, "Will you come to my birthday party?" she sits there and hesitates to a point where I thought she was going to say no, and she just hesitates and just goes, "I'll be there." And it's like, I think she already knew what was going to happen. Looking back
Yeah.
at that scene now, when you first
Yeah.
watch it, you're like, "Wow, that's an awkward person doing something very awkward." But I think she already knew. I think she already knew.
So I think she might have known to a degree because if she knew it was going to happen, she would have intervened earlier and saved the mother. So I don't
Yeah.
think she knew exactly what was going to happen, but she knew there's probably going to be a showdown.
Right. I think to Jesse's point, and not to speak for you, Jesse, is she just knew something was, she didn't know the exact outcome, but she knew something bad was going to happen there based on everything we've seen with her character being able to predict certain things and stuff like that.
Mm, it was a weird wrinkle in the ending. So the other thing that I thought as a negative for this movie that they just kind of sprinkled in there, and I understand that this was a deal with the devil kind of thing, but with Nicolas Cage's character with Longlegs, as this movie went on, he kind of seemed less important to the story, and it was more about her mother, and he was just kind of one of three angles of this thing working, right? You have the devil, you have the mother who's doing the devil's work, and then you have Longlegs who's,
It's like a broker.
yeah, I guess he's kind of finding the girls who have the correct birthday. Just not the way this movie ended. I was kind of left with more questions than answers, which I guess is okay because it kind of keeps you guessing. It does make me want to watch it again. But they kind of sprinkled in the whole devil worshiping thing, and I feel like they were kind of lazy with it. So they were bringing up like, well, he definitely worships the devil. And then at the end of the movie, he's like laughing and he's like, ha, 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 hail Satan. And that was kind of it. And it was like, yes, he's tied into this devil worshiping thing. You understand what's going on here. You're kind of around the satanic panic kind of era, but he confirms that he does worship the devil. But I feel like they didn't go into that enough. He also seemed like too much of a crazy person to be able to, I don't know, be that kind of intelligent, terrifying Satan worshiper from other movies, right? Where they're able to do these spells and cast all these things. It just, the character didn't fit the devil worshiping stuff. And it felt like the devil worshiping was kind of lazily just tossed in there. At least that's how I got it, especially with the end line. The end line where he just goes, hail Satan. That was a cringy line to me. I don't know if you guys felt the same way. I feel like it's more creepy if you leave it out in the open. Maybe he does worship Satan. Maybe maybe he doesn't. But I felt like that was a weird line, and I feel like it was kind of lazily thrown in there.
So I think he was more of, like I said earlier, he's like a broker, and he's kind of like what the mother was, right? He turned the mother into a soldier. I think he's probably also a soldier like the mother was. They're obviously different people and took the approach in different ways. He's a psycho, and she was doing it for a different reason to protect her daughter.
Well, I
But
think towards the end there, she was also a psycho. She didn't look well.
No, I agree. So that's why I think that, I mean, yeah, you're murdering people, so that takes a toll on you, I assume. But I think that they were both soldiers, and he was probably just in it longer. And it just
So
goes
he
to
was
show.
more willing. His character came off as more willing, where the mother was more reluctant, even though she did what she did at the end, right?
Yeah, I'm
You
not saying
see
they're
her,
carbon. I'm not saying they're carbon copies of each other. I'm just saying they're two very different people with the same
right?
job.
Yeah, I was fine with Nicolas Cage's character in this movie. I think I don't think that the Hail Satan stuff was too bad because it wasn't supposed to be ambiguous. It was supposed to be that it was
Explicit.
tied. Yeah, it's supposed to be that he's tied into the devil, because otherwise this movie really doesn't make as much sense.
Oh, I'm
If
not
he's
saying
not,
he shouldn't have been. I just felt like they were a little lazy with it, if that makes sense. And also like just the line at the end of the movie was such a, I don't know. It just didn't fit. I'm not saying Nicolas Cage's character didn't do great. I thought Nicolas Cage was phenomenal in this movie. I thought he was creepy. The best scene in this whole movie was he walks into a
Yes,
grocery,
I
like
was
a
gonna
convenience store that apparently he had visited a whole bunch of times, and there's this young girl behind the counter, and he's being creepy, and he's like, "And what's your birthday, darling?" or whatever, and she's just like, "Dad, this creepy fuck is back here again," or whatever the hell she said.
Gross old man is
This
back.
gross old man. Yeah, she did a great job delivering that line. That was hilarious. And yeah,
The following scene where he was in the car.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's just such a psychopath, and he fits so perfect for that role. So again, I think Nicolas Cage did a perfect job. I just think the writing on his lines and the whole tie-in with the Satan worshiping was a little bit lazy when it came to his character in particular.
I thought his makeup was bad. I
think it was purposely bad.
I don't know. I just thought it didn't look good. Not in like a creepy way. It was just kind of like, it was my only negative about his character was like the makeup and facial prosthetics just looked like,
I felt like they were trying
the Real Housewives of Orange County, like with just like a botched plastic surgery job.
Well, that might have been what they were going for. I felt like they were going for so many prosthetics that you couldn't tell it was Nicolas Cage, and I feel like that was Nicolas Cage's doing. Now it's just me assuming what is going on inside Nicolas Cage's head. I think he was just like, I want you to make me not look like me. I think I don't want to look like a brand new psychopath. So I think they were going for that. I just felt like for a movie, not to bring it up 100 times, but for a movie that was so kind of along the same lines as Silence of the Lambs, he was giving off way too much Buffalo Bill vibes, and the whole makeup job and everything didn't help with that whole connection.
The character was nothing like Buffalo Bill. I get the reference. I agree. But I mean, I wouldn't say way too, and not even the looks. I mean, Buffalo Bill was flamboyant and this guy was not. He was, the way they were dressed was not the same. He just kind of he had the long blonde hair and he was a serial killer. Other than that, I get the reference, but I wouldn't say like way too much like him.
I don't know. He was singing songs and stuff. So was Buffalo. These are people don't sing songs.
That's true.
No one has ever sang a song.
No, doesn't happen
in history.
So
I like the way he took himself out. That was
disturbing.
That's
brutal, disturbing scene. My one negative for this movie is I think it got, and I really like this movie, and you're going to hear it in my score, but I do think it got overhyped. I think this movie over the last 2 months, luckily it got overhyped in a way that it wasn't ruining the movie, but everyone was just talking about how much of a masterpiece, and this is the best horror movie of 2024, and maybe the best horror movie of the last decade. And it was just going nuts throughout like horror movie film Twitter and wherever else you get your info on horror movies. So marketing campaign worked. Whatever they did worked brilliantly for people to want to go see this. It outperformed what they thought it was going to do at the box office by 2 to 3 times. I think they were projecting for 8 to 9 million, and it made somewhere between like 22 and 24 million. So kudos to them for getting this movie seen, for making people want to go see this movie. But I think the overhype, which happens about once a year right now, movies just get like a little overhyped, and you go into it, and because it's so hyped, you almost feel it's just not going to live up to it. This movie came close for me, but we can't do the overhyping in these movies because it kind of ruins the experience a little bit.
Yeah, I fortunately didn't experience any of the overhyping. I did such a good job avoiding everything that I didn't even really see the hype. If I saw the word Longlegs, I'd scroll right past. So my expectations weren't anywhere for this, so I just kind of took it as I saw it. I don't think it's the best movie of 2024. Definitely not the best movie ever made. I liked it, but yeah.
It's up there. It was definitely good. I definitely am excited to go see it again because I do want to catch some of the things that I missed. And overall, I did enjoy this one. I thought it was a fun one. I think you should go see it too.
I agree.
I will say this, and this is the point I wanted to get to, and then I drew a blank. I will give them credit. They didn't bother with other chain of command police officers in this movie, which you get in a lot of cases like this. Well, now they got to go explain their case to their boss. And then like in every single detective or cop movie, they get taken off the case.
Yeah.
And then they go solve it even though they were taken off the case. And then they get a promotion and they say, we're sorry that we took you off the case. Here's your gun and your badge back. Thank God they didn't do that cliche, which is in every goddamn movie that involves any kind of detectives at all. So kudos to them. They skipped that whole line. I don't even think they talked to their police chief in the movie. It was just, that was it. They just did their job. You dealt with those two police officers, and I think that was pretty much it. So I was happy to not have the extra fluff, and they didn't have any room to add the extra fluff in the movie. So I like this one. You guys want to help with some scores here?
Before we get into the scores, I want to give props to the scene where you find out the mother is a killer, because that was pretty shocking.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good scene. So when the daughter and the FBI agent, they pull up to the house to go find the mother, and the daughter goes into the house, and then the mother just comes up and shotguns the other agent on both sides of the car. Very violent scene. Very, very violent, very shocking.
And that's something this movie does well, where when they do something, they really do it, but they don't rely on it throughout the entire movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not relying on extreme violence. You're not relying on jump scares or anything. But when something is done, it is done in a memorable way, such as that scene, or the Nicolas Cage scene where he's taking himself out. So kudos to them for that. But yeah, I think we should jump into some scores now.
Let's jump into some scores now. Rob, I want to hear where you are at with this one.
I'm going to give it a 4.5 long legs out of 5.
Pretty close. Yeah, I have it at a 4.4. And like I said earlier, it does not unseat the top movie of 2024 for me. So but it was good. It was right up there. And
Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah, Late Night with the Devil is still number one in 2024 for me.
That was a good one. Yeah. Now this one's up there. I mean, this one's good. This one's good. You can definitely go see it. I got it at a 4.5 as well. So me and Rob are the same long leg score, but it's a fun movie. I mean, if you haven't yet, go see it. I would say go see it in the movies, so that way you get more of the shock from the kills, and it's an enjoyable one.
The kills that we just ruined for you if you haven't seen this movie, but you were warned. Yes, definitely go see this movie. I have to go see what my score was for Late Night with the Devil. I'm torn between which one of those two I liked the best. I'd have to go back and think about it.
We were all pretty close to 5 for Late Night with the Devil, I believe.
All right, I think
which other ones in the mix? We have Late Night with the Devil. This movie's really good. Which other one were some really good ones that we've seen? We don't have to go through it. We'll talk about it off air. Anyways, if you have a horror movie that you think we should review, throw it in the comments. Also, have you seen Longlegs? Drop it in the comments. Did we spoil it for you? We told you we were going to do that.
We told you. You knew that we were going to spoil this movie. But let us know your score on it, as Jesse stated. That's going to do it for myself, for Dave, for Jesse. We'll catch you at the next horror movie review. Peace.